FDA has quietly restricted over 20 peptides from compounding pharmacies. These are specialized pharmacies that can customize medications, therapies with human clinical trials and real patient results, and proven international safety records. When Big Pharma needed to protect billion-dollar drugs, the FDA cracked down with lawsuits and enforcement. When patients needed affordable alternatives, access disappeared. This has been going on for years now, but now Robert Kennedy Jr., the new health secretary, has publicly promised to end what he calls the FDA's war on peptides, and I'm super excited, and I hope you are too, because this changes everything. I'm gonna show you the documented timeline, which specific peptides they banned, and why this suppression is about to explode into the biggest healthcare controversy of 2025. I'm Dr. Jones, DC, and I lead the coaching department at our nationwide GLP-1 clinic. And I've used peptides myself for injury recovery, and I work with medical practitioners who prescribe them to patients every single day, and I help coach them. See, this passion of mine comes from seeing what works when traditional medicine falls short. Now I help people access therapies the right way, with proper medical supervision, not underground research chemicals. Let me show you exactly what's been happening. You see, this isn't conspiracy theory. This is actually documented fact. In 2020 and 2021, during COVID, when people were desperate for immune support, the FDA issued warning letters to companies that were promoting thymosin alpha-1. This is one of the oldest immune peptides used clinically in Italy and Japan for over 40 years. The FDA shut down access to it in the United States during a pandemic. Is that protection or is that suppression? Let me know in the comments what you think. Then they created something called Category 2 Bulk Drug Substances List. Over 20 peptides are on this list, including BBC 157, TB 500, and others, which I'll show you later. The FDA says that these peptides pose significant safety risks, but here's the problem. Some of these have decades of safe use in other countries. Some have actual human clinical trials, like AOD 9604, for example, 6 human trials involving almost 900 people. It used to be on the FDA safe list, for crying out loud. It proved safety and efficacy, yet the FDA restricts it, at least tries to restrict it, while approving drugs with way less data. But the most blatant example happened in 2024. Compounding pharmacies were offering GLP-1 meds, semaglutide or tirzepatide, for $200, $400 per month during a shortage, and patients were getting results. It was working. And then October of 2024 happened, and the FDA suddenly declared the shortage was over. Industry experts disputed this. Patients still couldn't get branded versions, but the FDA said, nah, the shortage is over. And here's where it gets really interesting. In the months following that declaration, Eli Lilly escalated legal action, filing lawsuits against compounding pharmacies. Not before, right after. Federal judges sided with the FDA and Big Pharma in every single case. The result? Compounding pharmacies were blocked from producing these medications. Patients who were paying $200 to $400 per month got forced back to branded versions closer to $1,000 to $1,500 a month, which now they've improved. They definitely have dropped their prices to more affordable options, still pretty pricey. The Outsourcing Facilities Association, that's the industry group representing compounding pharmacies, they sued the FDA. This is the whole thing. The compounding pharmacy industry lost hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue from GLP-1 meds. One company alone, Hims, made $225 million from compounded semaglutide in 2024. That's just one player in a massive market that got shut down. You think that money just disappeared? No, it went right back into the pharmaceutical companies that were charging significantly more. If this coordination between the FDA and Big Pharma is making you realize that you need some professional guidance, navigating through peptide therapy, how to access quality peptides legally, or how to optimize protocols that actually work despite these restrictions, we offer these discovery calls where our patient advocates can address your specific situation and help you understand what's available through proper medical channels. You can either text the number on the screen or you can check out that link in the description if you want to explore that. But first, let me show you what's about to change here. And it's not the federal action. In 2025, states started cracking down. Ohio suspended 4 medical spa licenses after investigations found that they were using non-FDA approved peptides. California, Florida, and other states are following. The FDA is actively working with state medical boards to restrict clinicians from prescribing these peptides. This is coordinated enforcement from federal to state level. Now here's where this gets really interesting. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is now the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Before he was appointed, he made a public statement and he said, quote, "FDA's war on public health is about to end. This includes its aggressive suppression of peptides," end quote. He specifically called out peptides. The man is in charge of the US health policy and has publicly promised to reverse these restrictions. By the way, if learning about this rigged patent system and how the FDA protects pharmaceutical profits over patient access, at least it appears that way, is making you realize that you need this kind of information, hit that subscribe button now, because we put out multiple videos per week breaking down exactly what's happening in the metabolic health and peptide space and how to navigate this system. And of course, it really helps out the channel big time. So go ahead and hit that button right now and be sure to turn on the bell. Now let me explain exactly what peptides are and why this suppression matters so much. Okay, so what are peptides? Why does this matter? Let me break this down as simply as possible. Peptides are your body's signaling molecules. You see, they're chains of amino acids that tell your cells what to do. Think of them as text messages between your cells. Heal the tissue, burn this fat, build this muscle, release the growth hormone. Your body's already making thousands of peptides every single day. What we're talking about is using specific peptides therapeutically to amplify, improve the processes that slows down with age and injury. So after seeing the suppression timeline and understanding how peptides work with your body naturally, I want to know what you think. Do you think the FDA's peptide restrictions are about safety or protecting pharmaceutical profits? Your perspective could help others watching this video who are trying to make sense of this. Defend your answer in the comments. Let's go. Here's the key difference between peptides and traditional drugs. You see, drugs force your body to do something. They override natural systems. Peptides work with your body's existing pathways. They enhance what your body already does naturally. This is why the side effect profile is typically much cleaner. You're not fighting your biology, you're just optimizing certain pathways. Now here's the problem with Big Pharma's perspective. See, most peptides, they can't be patented. They're either identical to natural sequences in your body or they're minor modifications. You can't patent something that occurs in nature. If you can't patent it, you can't make billions of dollars from it. A pharmaceutical company isn't going to invest $500 million in clinical trials for something that they can't exclusively own. Now I got a question for you. Is the real problem the pharmaceutical company's lack of desire to spend money where they can't make money? Or is the actual system rigged? I mean, what would Big Pharma do if they actually could get research into these medications, these peptides that people access? Maybe Big Pharma might actually do something good with that. So I don't want to put all the blame in Big Pharma. I mean, they are a company. This is a capitalistic society and they're trying to make money. And unfortunately, that's the pathway. So this is the real world we live in. So because of this, what ends up happening? You see, these peptides, they get used in other countries. For example, Italy approved thymosin alpha-1 for immune support. Japan uses it clinically. Doctors see results for decades. But in the United States, the FDA says not enough data. Well, yeah. There's not enough data because no company will fund the massive trials when they can't profit from it. This is the predicament. You can't patent it. It's a problem. Effective therapies that work with your body, that have real-world evidence from other countries, but they get stuck in regulatory limbo because there's no financial incentive to push them through the approval process. Meanwhile, drugs that can get patented, they end up getting fast-tracked even with limited safety data sometimes. And that's exactly what we're seeing with the peptides that I'm about to show you. Real benefits, real clinical use internationally, but in America, restricted or banned. Here's the legal foundation for this suppression. The Supreme Court ruled in 2013 that naturally occurring products, including naturally occurring peptides, cannot be patented unless they're marked different from what exists in nature. So most therapeutic peptides, the one that work best because they mimic your body's natural biology, they can't be patented. And if Big Pharma can't patent it, they won't invest the $2.6 billion required to push it through FDA approval. No exclusive rights means no guaranteed profit. So these peptides sit in regulatory limbo forever. Meanwhile, drugs that can be patented get fast-tracked. COVID vaccines got emergency approval in months. But thymosin alpha-1, with 40 years of safe use in Italy and Japan, got shut down during COVID when people needed immune support the most. AOD 9604 has 6 months of human clinical trials, almost 900 people studied it, proven safe and effective. It's been waiting for over 20 years and still no approval, still nothing. And here's what makes this especially frustrating. The FDA calls peptides risky while approving drugs, in many cases, much worse safety data. The system is designed to protect patents and profits, not patients. So let me show you the specific peptides that the FDA has restricted and why this matters. BPC 157, or body protective compound. This is the one that Joe Rogan talks about. He said, quote, "Athletes swear by BPC 157. There's evidence that they accelerate healing from injuries." Andrew Huberman discussed it on one of his podcasts, multiple podcasts, covering how it promotes tissue repair and wound healing. This peptide promotes tissue repair, reduces inflammation, and accelerates healing of tendons, ligaments, and muscles, even gut issues. The FDA put it on the Category 2 list, citing immune system reaction risk, but athletes, clinicians, and millions of people worldwide have used it with remarkable results. I'm still waiting for somebody to report a single issue. TB500 is a fragment of thymosin beta-4. This is BPC 157's partner, lesser known, but very powerful. It promotes angiogenesis, the promotion of new blood vessels, which brings nutrients and oxygen to damaged tissues. I used both of these personally. See, I tore my rotator cuff from a volleyball injury. It was looking like 6 to 9 months of standard healing time, maybe surgery, but I used BPC 157, TB500. I was back on court in 2 months. That personal experience is why I'm so passionate about these, and I've also seen thousands of patients transform. I've seen patients with torn menisci, rotator cuff injuries, chronic tendonitis issues get results while everything else failed. GHK-copper. This one's interesting because it's more available than others, but still restricted in certain forms. This one promotes wound healing, stimulates collagen and elastin production, and improves skin elasticity. We use this one in our clinic for patients losing significant weight who want to maintain skin quality and promote hair growth. It's part of what I call the looks amazing stack. Lose the fat, keep the skin tight. Now for longevity and recovery, we have CJC 1295 and Tesamorelin. These are growth hormone secretagogues. They don't give you growth hormone directly, but they tell your pituitary gland, the master gland in your brain, to release growth hormone. It's a more natural approach. Benefits include muscle preservation during weight loss, improved recovery, better sleep, metabolic optimization. AOD 9604. Remember those 6 human clinical trials that I mentioned earlier? That was AOD 9604. Almost 900 people studied with excellent safety confirmed. Now this one's interesting because I know some of you that are following this data, the clinical trials, they didn't look that good. Now this is interesting. I want to talk about this one because this is one of my favorite peptides that we use, and we stack it with GLP-1s, and it's so powerful. In my opinion, the #1 peptide to stack with your GLP-1s. See, AOD is a fragment of human growth hormone. So you're not getting growth hormone, you're just getting the fat mobilizing portion. It acts on fat cells to mobilize fat cells. One of our big claims to fame is putting patients into longer therapeutic fasting windows. That to me is the key to reversing insulin resistance, reducing inflammation, and setting you up for successful long-term weight loss and weight maintenance. AOD bridges the gap because you've been told, rightfully so, that long-form fasting can be detrimental to your health, especially if you're a menopausal woman, for example, but also if you have inflammatory conditions, autoimmune issues. AOD reduces the stress response from your body because the stress response was your body's inability to tap into the fat because of the inflammation and the insulin levels, among many other things. So AOD makes it easier for your body to do the damn thing, therapeutic fasting, that it needs to actually heal. Love that peptide stack. If you guys want me to do a video where I do a deep dive specifically into AOD, because it is one of my favorites, I'll probably do it either way. Let me know in the comments if that would be helpful for you. I'll go over the whole fasting protocol, the stack, all of it. And then there's Tesamorelin, and this is where the hypocrisy becomes really clear. Tesamorelin is FDA approved. It's approved for lipodystrophy, which is abnormal fat distribution in HIV patients. The FDA said, yes, this peptide is safe and effective for reducing visceral fat in a specific population. So it's safe enough for FDA approval for one condition. Why not study it as preventative in other areas, right? For other non-HIV patients? Why not research its use for visceral fat reduction in the general population? Well, is there any financial incentive? Yada, 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 we've already talked about it. So now, which peptide have you tried? Let me know because I'm curious what's working for you, and I'll respond with exactly the protocols that we use for that particular peptide with our patients. Now, I need to be completely honest with you about something. The FDA isn't entirely wrong about quality concerns. There is some problems with unregulated peptides flooding the market. Research-grade peptides from China, underground suppliers, no quality control, contamination risks. I've seen testing where product is labeled semaglutide and it contained no active ingredient, no semaglutide, or other samples had 5 times the stated dose, causing overdoses. Some contained bacterial contaminations. So when the FDA says they're concerned about immunogenicity, about peptide-related impurities, and about safety risks from compounding variabilities, those concerns are legitimate. The unregulated market is risky, but where I disagree is with their approach. The solution shouldn't be overall suppression. The solution is better regulation and funding for proper clinical trials. If these peptides have been used safely in other countries for over 40 years, if they have real-world evidence of effectiveness, then why not fund the damn research? Why not create regulatory pathways that make sense for substances that can't be patented? Instead, the FDA restricts access completely so that the underground market thrives with zero oversight. That doesn't protect patients. That actually creates a worse situation, and this is exactly why professional medical supervision matters. Getting your peptides from legitimate 503A compounding pharmacies, those are pharmacies that actually have FDA oversight, strict guidelines, working with clinicians who understand proper protocols, having quality standards in testing, not buying research chemicals online, injecting yourself based on what you read on Reddit. Now, should I do a follow-up video tracking RFK Jr.'s actual policy changes on peptides as they happen in 2025, 2026? Let me know if that's something that you'd be interested in. Now, here's what's about to change. RFK's administration is signaling major policy shifts on peptides. Industry experts expect loosened restrictions in 2025-26, and the compounding pharmacy industry is pushing back hard on FDA overreach. Courts are being forced to reconsider whether the FDA followed proper procedures when adding peptides to the restricted list. Things are moving. The conversation is changing. Access might expand significantly in the next year or two. But until then, if you want peptide therapy, it needs to be done right. Proper medical supervision, legitimate sourcing, quality control, safety protocols. Look, if you're sitting here realizing that you want peptide therapy, but you're confused about how to access them legally and safely with all these FDA restrictions, or you're tired of paying thousands of dollars for peptides and GLP-1s, and they're not working for you, and you want to know that there are better options out there, or you just want professional guidance from the get-go on a protocol that will actually work despite all this regulatory mess, that's exactly why we offer free discovery calls. You can either text the number on the screen, or you can check out the link that I'll leave in the description. So you'll connect with one of our patient advocates. They'll walk you through your health history, what you've already tried, your long-term goals, so that we can design the right approach together. We're also going to review programs and pricing so that you can understand what it's going to look like to work with me, my coaches, or all of my medical team too as well. This is how you can actually navigate peptide therapy the right way with proper medical supervision, legitimate sourcing, and protocols that actually work. Now, if you want to learn more about what I think is the most underrated peptide, check out this video right there. This is a comprehensive deep dive into one of my favorite peptides, GHK-Copper, the blue peptide for anti-aging and skin health. We'll see you guys later.